the commitment and it feels like aligning with your purpose allowed you to stick through it, man, and to be, have interviewed 80 people plus, dude. That's huge. So congrats, man.
Thanks, man.
Laying one brick at a time. That's what it's about.
Yeah, it's cool. I can't believe it's been 80 episodes either. I'm sure it's like that as you think about like your artwork and whatnot, and how many clients you've worked on now and whatnot. Do you ever have those moments where you sit back and just, whether you're driving or during a moment when you're grounding, do you ever have those moments where you sort of reflect on where you are today and you're like, man, actually, I got here? Or almost like you're not living in reality, like it's a dream almost?
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you did that?
Yeah, so I like to reflect a lot. I had a moment last week with one of my clients. We were having conversation, and in our conversation, talking about like what I was doing prior to tattooing, and then Apple, and so it opened up the box to go back into my story, and I was like, man, I remember the struggle, and like even just as a kid wanting to be like an artist, and growing up, and how I was going to do, and then facing self-doubt, right? Facing adversity and some sort of like steering me away from that path. But then it just all comes back together like, yo, I'm living the dream right now. And then it opened up another perspective. It's like, can I dream more? What else can I dream? What else can I do now? Because I feel like I've attained what I wanted to do to some aspect, Yeah. So, yeah, man, just super, super grateful. I get to mark up people permanently. Like it's so cool, in a creative way. But to be able to bring to life something that they're passionate about, and that I also align with as well. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Let me introduce you real quick.
Yeah.
Happy Saturday, y'all. Tonight on David's Saturday Night Sit Back, I am excited to introduce you to Bryan, who is a Latino tattoo artist who was born in the Dominican Republic, raised in Jersey, spent some time in Queens, New York, and eventually made it out to Austin, Texas from the Northeast to follow a mentor of his and take a risk at making money from something that he's passionate about. Originally a business major with a minor in marketing at Montclair State University, he left his junior year to escape the safe route of entering the corporate world to commit to developing his artistic abilities. After digging through Bryan's online presence, I can't wait to dive into his story of healing, adversity, mindset, spirituality, creativity, anime, fitness, connection, life experience, and who knows what else may come up. My hope for today's episode is that through Bryan's story, we can provide you some peace, share some love, and add some fuel to that internal fire of yours. Bryan, welcome to your episode on David's Saturday Night Sit Back.
What's up, man? Holy shit, what an intro. That was good. That was good. Thanks, man. That's probably one of the best welcomes I've ever had in my life. Holy crap.
Took you off guard a little bit, huh?
Dude, that was good. That was good. I'm excited. You got me pumped up.
Hell yeah. Whew, I'm glad it did, man. That's awesome. That's the purpose of it. So I have a question for you to kick things off. Just a couple of easy warm-up questions. Do you happen to know Chase Belaise, if I'm saying that last name correctly?
No, not familiar.
Okay, I wonder if he just follows you because of your artwork, but when I jumped onto your Instagram, he's a buddy of mine. He lives here in Texas. He's an MMA fighter, and he also does some training at the Golds that I go to. So when I saw he followed you, I thought, what a small world. Maybe y'all know each other, but I'm assuming just probably from your work.
Yeah, most likely. I have, to be honest, like I don't know a lot of people out here yet. Which I'm hoping to, to shift and change for sure.
Yeah. How about Jessica DePatsy? Do you know her?
Ooh, Jessica. I know a Jessica, but I'm not putting a face onto her, so I'm not sure.
Let me show you a picture real quick.
Dude, I suck with names. I'm going to tell you right now.
She also has a ton of tattoos, and so I'm wondering if it's purely just because of... Where's a face picture? She posts a bunch of videos, but does she look familiar at all?
Yes!
How do you guys know each other?
So Jessica, I had one of my best friends from Arizona send me a post to one of her Gene Key book clubs back in, was this March, April time? I think. And so I've been dibble-dabbling a little bit into Gene Key, so I was curious. I was like, let me go to a book club here in Austin. So it was cool. And so I went, and then I met her along with some more attendings in the book club, and we dove a little bit into a lot into Gene Keys. And then I found out, she's worked with combo, with other like healing modalities and whatnot. So it was just really, really cool to get to know of her and a little bit of her while she was here. So that's how I crossed paths with her.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
She's awesome.
Yeah.
I need to go to one of those book clubs, and I need to figure out. I either need to turn on push notifications for her Instagram or figure out if she has an email reminder I can get on or something, because she came on the pod and that was one of the things we probably talked about for a good 20-25 minutes was gene keys and whatnot. And it seems like a really fascinating topic that I wanted to dive more into. And here we are 5 months later and I haven't thought about it once since then.
Yeah, nah, dude, it happens, man. Unfortunately, she ended up moving. Fortunately, she ended up moving back to Canada. So she's no longer out here. So she was able to pass the baton to another young lady. Her name is Summer, who's heading the book club now.
Okay.
So I can definitely get you that info. I haven't attended like in a couple of months because my schedule's been crazy. But yeah, so the book club is still going on. So yeah, it's in good hands.
Okay. Well, to kick things off, thank you for being out here because I know you're a busy guy. So I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you, dude.
I want to try to jog your memory a little bit. Somewhere on your Instagram, you made a post about playing Metal Gear Solid for the first time on PlayStation. You remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was back in '98, so you were probably like 10.
Like, yeah, around there. Well, yeah, like 7, 8. Yeah. I was a kid. So, dude, that to me has to be by far the best game ever, in my opinion. For PlayStation, maybe in particular. It has such an amazing storyline. I didn't get to play it growing up initially. I was watching my dad play it a lot in the story mode and whatnot. So I was like so caught up into the story and seeing my dad trying to go through these missions and whatnot. But it's such a huge, beautiful staple in my childhood for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played all of them except for Phantom's Pain. Because the open world was like way too much for me. I was like, I don't have time to navigate and to roam around. I need some direction and structure to get through the mission. So Phantom Pain is the only one I haven't beaten. But everything else prior to that, man, I love Metal Gear. They're about to come out with the remake for Snake Eater, so I'm waiting for that.
You gonna get it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Slow down and play a little Metal Gear Solid.
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like an adult child again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just did that. Did you play Mario? Any of the Mario games?
I did. I played I had a Super Nintendo, so I played Super Mario World, I think it was called.
Yep.
Where they had a whole bunch of them in there.
Did you play RPG by chance?
RPG as in
Super Mario RPG?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever play Final Fantasy?
Nah, either.
Do you know the concept of Final Fantasy? So, Super Mario RPG was one of the games where you're sort of navigating the world, and when you see a bad guy and you guys connect, the screen changes and you go into a fighting arena, and you have health and magic points that you can spend, but it's more, I guess, arena-style fighting, whereas in all the other Mario games, you just jump on the turtle and that knocks them out.
Right.
But that was a game that they remade last year, and I picked it up and beat it in about a month. I probably had more downtime that month than I did since I've been in Texas, but I was so excited to play it again.
Yeah.
So I did. It's well worth it.
Absolutely. Dude, and even if, because I'm going to carve out time for some play too, like even if you don't have downtime, I think it's so important to make some time to do stuff that's fun for you, because like we live in a culture / society where it's like constant grind and having to work and going over to the next step, which I think it's cool to have goals and whatnot, but man, it's okay to be a big ass kid and to have fun, and whatever that means to you, go ahead and go have at it.
Yeah. Outside of the game coming out soon, what have you been doing in the last 12 months to make sure you have fun?
Whew. Last 12 months, let's see, from August to September now, man. Okay, so fun for me, definitely have played some video games since we touched upon that already. What was the last thing? The last thing I was playing was some Call of Duty. It was Modern Warfare 3, and the last time they had those maps was like for Modern Warfare 2, and I was in high school, so it was a nostalgic feeling to go back into it and play it. But then I went online, man, and that shit is so toxic. I was like, I need to take a break from this video game. I'm hearing so much stuff. I'm like, I cannot deal with this. So, so some video games for sure. I like to spend some time out in nature and go for hikes. That for me is fun to reconnect. Just explore Austin in that aspect. I've been out to some bars too to check that out downtown with some couple of buddies from the gym, so that's been cool. I picked up basketball again, so I was playing basketball from like February up until May until I had some injuries. I had to stop playing. Um, so what else have I done out here? I've been back home to Jersey. I've traveled to Arizona. I've sat down and done plant medicine, which I think it's fun. It's also very intense, but it's also fun. You know, it's a fun experience overall. Uh, let's see. I've traveled to different places. Been to Colombia with family. Yeah, that's what I can think of, man, for the most part. And created some art, of course, for sure. And tattoos. Tattoos for me is always fun. Sometimes it does feel like work, but it's also fun for sure.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it that I can think of.
That's a good list.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, he was a hero you admired,
Yeah.
or maybe still do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why Spider-Man specifically, of all the heroes we have to choose from?
So, Spider-Man. How can I explain it? He's like some of the stories I've seen of him growing up and being in school is like getting picked on and stuff like that, and so resonated with some of the concept of like wanting to stand up for myself as a kid, and you know have experiencing being bullied and whatnot.
Yeah.
But also wanting to be like a hero, wanting to save people or protect people to some degree, and so I enjoyed the liberty he had roaming across the city, but also having to, you know, be responsible and protect the people at the same time.
Do you still feel that need?
No, I don't feel that anymore. It was more of a concept growing up as a kid. I like the concept of that hero in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I also gravitate towards Venom as well, which is also the darker side. So I like heroes or concept of heroes that have a yin and yang kind of like balance to them in some way, shape, or form that showcases both the light and the dark sides to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not a light and a dark side, but do you feel like you have any kind of alter ego or some version of yourself that shows up in some playing fields and then a different version of Bryan shows up in other playing fields?
Yeah, I mean, I would personally classify them as light and dark, just because like both are needed. One cannot exist without the other, you know. And I mean, one can say like good and bad is not necessarily. We don't have to put in that particular term, but yeah, I have definitely different aspects, and many different aspects of myself that show up throughout my whole journey of my life for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, based on experiences, life experiences overall.
I would say the same.
Yeah.
It shows up differently now than it does in the past, but I would say like my bad side or evil side is that natural self-doubt that we all have, where I'll be driving or let me think when the last time it happened was. It was in the last week. And I can't remember the circumstances at this moment. But all of these moments where I'm like, man, I'm just going to shut the podcast down. I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to cancel all the future episodes, and no one will probably even notice. People would. But I don't have any idea where these thoughts come from, because I'm not necessarily in a bad mood or in a bad place. I'll just be in the middle of a workout, driving home from HEB, falling asleep at night, and these very dark thoughts will hit me, where it's like, why don't you just stop?
How come? So you say you don't know where it derives from, but where do you feel like this is rooted deeper in a sense that it's derived from other like aspects of your life in the past where you've had like, have you quit something in the past before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, do you feel like it's a pattern wanting to repeat itself?
Oh, that's a good question. Not necessarily, because the first place my mind went to when you asked me if I've quit something before, as I mentioned before we started recording, that my parents raised us in a religious household. And when I was in my early 20s, I did end up leaving the church. It was something that happened slowly, where we were part of one church, left that one. I was sort of church shopping, for lack of a better term. And I knew that I wanted to see what option was out there other than Christianity, because it's not just something we did on Sundays. It almost encapsulates your whole identity, in the sense that you base your morals off of what's said in the Bible. It's where we make our friends. It's who we spend our time with outside of the church. It was everything. So I don't know if it was necessarily quitting per se, as much as it was I wanted to explore who is David,
Right.
outside of this. If we set the church and my religion and my faith aside, like, who is this man, and what is he going to accomplish before he dies, and what does he care about, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I wouldn't consider that quitting in particular. Is there something an idea that you've wanted to bring to fruition, and you committed to it, but then you've had to let it go for any particular reason that came from you, that wasn't, put onto you by anyone else?
Ask me that one more time.
Sorry. So similar to the podcast, right? Yeah. How this is an idea that you had, and then you started it up, and then you've had thoughts, but you've been committed to it, right? Is there anything else that has come from you that you have committed to in the past, but you've had to quit or let it go?
Yeah, I will. Probably playing the piano, but that was also very closely tied to the church, because I was in a band, and it was always, and we had gigs, and there is a, well, you've been on stage as a dancer.
Yeah.
It's one thing to practice, but when you're in a room full of people who, whether you're doing something more performative like dancing or playing the piano in a church, there is like this energy of 600 people coming together, and you're on stage and you're producing this art, right? And it moves people to emotions, whether that's excitement or crying, or there's just this fucking energy in the room. And so when I left the church, I still played for a year or two, but even that felt sort of purposeless, because I didn't find another band to play with. I didn't want to play for churches anymore. And it very slowly but surely went from practicing 7 days a week to 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh shit, it's been 8 years since I touched a keyboard.
So I see. So it's been so far in the two examples you've given me, it seems like it's been connected to the church, for the most part. So I'm curious to know if, like, the experience with the podcast, these challenging thoughts that do kick in and happen from time to time, I wonder it's because it's more so something like new completely from you, that you wanted to do without any influence of anything, whether it's family tradition and whatnot, and wanting to stick to it and see through the vision of your podcast overall.
Yeah. I'll be curious what your 2 cents on this will be. I know exactly the last time I felt this. I was listening to a podcast that Machine Gun Kelly was doing, and Colson was talking about how in his early music, you know who that is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Early in his music days, when nobody knew who he was, and he was very much just getting started, whenever a CD would drop, his aunt, who worked at Target, would get every single CD that Target ordered, would put it at her checkout stand, and with every person in line, she'd be like, hey, buy the CD, buy the CD, buy the CD. And she was just his biggest fan, even if she didn't listen to the music or whatever. Like, no matter what he put out there, every album that dropped, she would be there slinging it at Target until it was gone. And in that moment, I felt a sadness that I don't feel like I have that person in my corner. And I don't need that person in my corner. But I thought, wouldn't that be sweet? Wouldn't that be cool if my mom, one of my buddies, someone at the gym was just out there preaching this thing for me just because they believed in the ultimate mission that I'm trying to succeed? It's moments like that where I hear these things that other people have, and it makes it feel... I don't know. It made me very happy for him. It's like, fuck yeah, I'm so glad you had your aunt in your life. Where's my aunt? That's the last time it hit me.
Yeah, I feel that. So it's like wanting to feel supported in that journey.
Yeah.
Of wanting to create your own vision. I get that. So of course those challenging thoughts are going to kick in when you don't constantly have that support around you to remind you, of what you're doing it for. Because the purpose can get lost, right? Can be forgotten. It's like, why the fuck am I still doing this shit? I get it. But it's nice to have supportive people to share and to resonate with that. When I started tattooing in particular, I faced a lot of challenges within my family in particular. I was part of a community back in Montclair State University, part of a fraternity. So like, and then working at Apple, I was able to receive a lot of support and genuine love from like my community that I had established out there. But when it came to my family, man, I dealt with so much adversity, and it's really because of the perspective they had around tattooing, right? And the stigma that's been around tattooing. My parents have had very traditional Latino old school views. Pretty much anybody that had tattoo, they're associated with gang violence, with drugs, etc., all that stuff. And so uh, when I wanted to pursue tattooing, I wasn't in a good space already with my family to begin with, and at home it was a very challenging experience because I couldn't have any conversations about what I was pursuing, nor did they support me in what I was doing. So luckily I had friends and people around me outside of home that were supportive, but to be honest, David, like that for me wasn't enough because with the support that I really wanted was from my family. And so like it was a challenge because of that. And eventually the wheels turned. My parents got to see how committed and dedicated I was to tattooing, even though I wanted to drop that shit like 1,000 times, honestly speaking. But yeah, they're. I can say now, fast forward now, they're extremely supportive. I've been able to do a full sleeve on my sister. Been able to tattoo my mom. My dad is the only one that's left, but he has more of his beliefs still surrounding his parents, so that's why he still hasn't gotten a tattoo. But I feel like before that time comes for him to transition, he'll probably make a turn just to say he did it, uh, so yeah, so for me at least within my story, I've been grateful enough to say that I've been through that fire, but luckily it's been able to transform and be different.
What would you do if the next time you saw your dad, he rolled up to your place, you opened the front door, he's wearing a tank top and just had a full set of sleeves?
I'd be mad as hell, bro. I'd be like, come on, man, you could have just came to me first. At least let me give you the first tattoo. Even though I highly doubt that would happen, but yeah, I'd be pretty upset. I'd take that personal. He gave me the most shit, man.
And he said, but I wanted to surprise you. See how much I've grown? Look, Bryan. Look at all this growth.
They better be the fake tattoo sleeves. No, but I mean, even though those emotions would come up to some degree, I'd still be happy for to see a shift of perspective for sure.
Yeah.
Because that's growth right there for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you grow up in the Dominican Republic, or did you guys move to Jersey pretty quickly?
So I was born there. I was there for maybe like 2 years at most. So I was fairly like definitely a baby still. My parents had me at 17, 18. So my dad came to the States as soon as my mom had conceived me. And then my mom shortly came after I was born as well. So they came straight to New York, to Queens, and they were working. And they were there for like 5 years before we moved to Jersey.
Do you know how they chose Queens? Did they ever tell you?
No. My dad had, it was my mom's first time in the States. My dad had family come before visits to New York, so it was more like familiar. And I think he had family already in New York, but in a different part of, not Queens, probably like the Bronx or Brooklyn. No, it was Brooklyn, now that I remember. So he had family in Brooklyn. So Queens, it was just probably something they could have afforded at that time, coming as teenagers, trying to make a living.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Real quick before I forget, I was enjoying our conversation so much earlier that I just hit record, and so I. You were dropping some fire, and so I was like, I need to get this. So I just leaned over real quick.
That's great. That's great.
So with that in mind, one of my questions I meant to ask before that, is there a particular time you need to be out of here by today?
Probably by 3:00 the latest.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Sweet. So you guys moved to Queens, and you have one sister?
Yeah.
And you touched on this briefly, but did religion or God play a role in your household at all growing up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Christianity or what?
Catholicism.
Catholicism.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, holy shit, bro. Nah, super strict. Jesus. um, yeah, man. So, yeah, my parents, specifically my dad, and again, it's because it comes from the tradition of his parents and his family. Yeah, had us indoctrinated real quick as kids. Getting baptized. We had to do the communion, the confirmation. The confirmation was when I had to like rebel because I couldn't take it anymore. But yeah, man, go to church every Sunday. Experience that, and then we had to do, I forget what else. We were also doing some family gatherings during the weekends as well, like once a month outside of church. And like church was cool at first, man. Like I was open and receptive to it, and I liked the idea and the concept of like coming together and like praying and connecting in the name of love and peace and harmony. But as I began to develop more awareness, uh, and not to shit on anybody in the church, anybody that goes to church, because I respect everybody's practices and their religious views and whatnot. But within my own family, like we would go to church on Sundays, man, and then we would come home, and throughout the week, you just see like the same challenges go over and over again. I'm like, what is the point of going to church if we're not really shifting behaviors and beliefs, right? And so it really began to be a problem for me when again, we would go to church, break bread, have the bread and whatnot, and pray, and then uh, all the behaviors that one are not supposed to be doing, such as judging others or like talking bad about other people and doing this and doing that, etc. Uh, began to like make me question the religion and belief and why are we really doing this, and so that uh, I was in high school when I began to like really church shop as well, and begin to explore other spiritual avenues. And that's when I had one of the first churches I went to after that was like a Zionist church. And so it was interesting because I went with a trusted friend, and like they had no representation of Jesus at all anywhere in their church, no cross, no nothing. And they were like, one of the beliefs was that um, the example that they gave me, it's like if one of your beloved was like shot with a gun, you wouldn't walk around with a gun emblem on your as a chain or like in your household, right, representing what killed that beloved person of yourself. And so uh, it was an interesting concept that I saw, and so I tried that out. Went and told my parents, like super excited, like, hey, like I feel like I'm open minded, like I'm trying new things, like I don't agree with Jesus Christ being crucified and whatnot. It was a cool shift of perspective, right? Just to try something different and see how that made me feel on the inside, right? Uh, and Yeah, that brought hell into my family, dude. And so from there, I was okay. Like I just knew that it started to become more familiar for me that I was the black sheep of the family, because that was just like step number one. I wanted to start exploring other stuff as well too. That led me down into a deeper rabbit hole. It's as to where I'm at now.
How'd your relationship change after that day when you told them that you went to that church?
So my parents were already controlling and confining in a way. So pretty much, man, like I couldn't do. I had a lot of very barriers around me growing up with my parents. They wanted to be protective, so I understand now for what it was. But they wanted to protect me from the outside world, from anything happening to me. But after I did that, it just became worse. Like they became more on top of me with what I can be doing and cannot be doing. You know. Uh, but for me, like something that I use that as fuel to challenge them even more and to even do more stuff that was rebellious. Uh, and I'll use it as fuel. It's for me to explore more stuff out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you just said about your parents reminded me of something I heard someone say recently, and it was the idea that we're being overprotective of what we do, of what we let our kids do in the outside world, and we're being underprotective of what our kids do here.
Mm.
There's something to chew on mentally for a couple of days.
Mm.
What kind of rebellious stuff would you allow yourself to get into?
So I wasn't a wild kid. Man, I was wild in the sense that I would fight a lot in school growing up. I was getting suspended at least once every year. get in trouble in school for sure. I would I mean, that's what I would consider as wild. The other aspect of wild is like going to different churches. My parents wouldn't let me stay out late, man. So I'm in high school. I was like, when I tell you, I was super like locked in. Like my parents wouldn't let me do anything. It wasn't until I got to college. College is when it was like I took advantage of the freedom, and because of me being like super rebellious, man, I've been arrested in multiple occasions for choices that I've made. Got suspended in college for a whole year. That fucked me up. What else? And then I started to mess. I wouldn't say mess, but I started to dive in deeper with different uh, plant medicines. Like really opening up Pandora's box, right? I started to smoke cannabis and started to see what that was like. Alcohol was never really my thing, just because like alcoholism was huge within my family, and I didn't like the effects it had on my family. So I'm not a fan of alcohol, but plant related stuff, psychedelics, things of that nature. Yeah, once I started diving into that, man, it was just like, oh man, like my mind started to open up. But I also went into like very uh, dark parts of myself that the light hasn't been shined into yet, if that makes sense. You know, so. So yeah, I mean, I think the wild stuff for me is like anything that a teenager, a guy in his 20s would do, you know, just to enjoy life or what they're following the crowd to some degree, to explore and try that out. Uh, but nothing too wild that would tip me over the edge of not coming back. You know,
Yeah.
where where I don't lose my mind and lose. I mean, I can say I've been able to like lose myself to refine myself to be reborn again in a way, you know, like having to shed parts of myself that no longer align and resonate with. So to that part of the edge of the cliff, I've had to go and jump off and do that work in that way.
Yeah.
But again, not to a point where I've like there's a point of no return.
I have a picture for you of
Yeah.
someone from your life.
Yeah.
You remember this young lady?
Yes. Josira. She's a former mentor of mine from college. Dude, she's incredible. It's gonna get me a little emotional. And the reason why is because during my experience in Montclair State University, it was a very difficult transition to go to from high school and to have to build like this persona, this character, right? Because I had moved so much. Well, I moved from New York to Jersey, and then from Jersey we moved from North Bergen to Teaneck. So I was constantly like not constantly but shifted from different school systems. I had to leave group of friends and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so me and my sister had to struggle through that as well. And having to recreate yourself and reintroduce yourself into new groups of people is challenging, right? So by the time we moved to Teaneck, we had like maybe 1-2 years left of middle school, and then we had transition to high school, which had more groups of people that we weren't familiar with. And so there was a lot of like, okay, like who am I, right? And trying to discover that, trying to be that in a way, and then having to again scrap that all out, all that's lost, and then having to go to college, and it's like, okay, here I'm at ground zero. What do I align with and what I want to do? And so I took some of the stuff that I did enjoy in college, and decided to pursue that. I mean, in high school, and decided to pursue that in college. And so one of the things with Josiah was in high school was a peer leader, and so there was like a peer leader experience and a peer advisor experience in college, where I had the opportunity to mentor and to like be a facilitator for the incoming students. And dude, I had such an amazing experience doing that, like being part of a community and part of a system that works and that was actually proactive for the students. And so I did that for 2 years, and then my junior year, I was involved in a situation where I was suspended for a whole year, and I had a pretty good reputation already in college because of the things I was involved in and whatnot, different organizations, and all that was like stripped away, you know. And so by the time I came back, no other jobs on campus wanted to give me an opportunity to work on campus, and she took me back in, you know, despite that. And so yeah, I'm just extremely so grateful, and she has such a soft spot in my heart. Because in times where I was facing a lot of challenges, she still gave me an opportunity to come back and to finish what I started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Have you heard of that bread company who specifically likes to employ people who have been in prison?
No.
It's called like Hammer Mike's Ham. Oh, would you mind handing that to me? I think it's just
I don't want to. I don't want to.
It's nothing too sentimental,
Oh, there it
so
is.
if it
No,
breaks,
no. I thought it was gonna fall all the way to the ground.
Thank you, sir.
You got it,
Appreciate
brother.
you. But I thought it was awesome because from that perspective of whether you were suspended from school, put in jail, if there's ever any kind of situation in society where you're sort of outcasted for 6 months, 12 months, 3 years, I feel like you'd be mentally flogging yourself that whole time, that you sort of need that extra hand helping you sort of get reacquainted with, okay, I'm back in college, I'm out of jail, whatever the thing is, and so hearing that there's people like this company who specifically looks for people who are getting out of jail and making a genuine effort to get their life back in some semblance of order again, or people like Josie, or does she go by Josie, or does she?
Yeah, her name is Josiah, but Josie's her name.
Josiah. That's awesome that people like that exist, because we need those people.
Yeah.
To help everyone keep life moving forward.
Absolutely.
Why'd you get suspended for a year?
So, I was pledging a fraternity,
Okay.
and so there were hazing allegations that were being brought upon us, and the line that I was pledging in. So the people that you pledge in the process with, it's called the line, right? And so it was myself and four of the gentlemen at that time, who are my line brothers, and we were caught outside after hours at nighttime, going through the process, and so we were caught by the cops. And when they found us all muddied up, like something's been going on, right? And so we were getting pledged, and from there, we had to go into the vice president's office, and then there's I forget the guy's role in the university as well too, but some guy that does the disciplinary stuff within the school structure for anybody that does anything that's out of line and whatnot. And so I forget his actual. He was a creepy ass dude too. He was perfect for the role. Perfect. When I tell you, dude, he was perfect for the role. It was like he had like no emotion on his face either. But yeah, man. So we got caught there. And so we had to go through a whole process trying to align our stories to let them know that we weren't, going through something that's hazing related, just because there was so much hazing allegations coming up in general, especially during that time with fraternities, and it's like kids, like students dying and whatnot because of stuff that was happening across the states. So that came up, man, and then. Shortly after that, I was involved. This is my second strike. So that was my first strike being involved in an incident. Luckily, we didn't get, I forget what the actual consequences of that was. I think we had to do some community service and stuff like that. But I had a strike already on my belt, right? I was on a radar doing this. The second thing was I was a CA, community assistant. I already worked up my way up to be. The vision was to work for higher education and be a community assistant and work with students, right, and mentor students by junior year. And I was like, that's the vision that I'm going to focus on, and that's what I want to do. And I'm going to finish out my college degree, but I want to still pursue higher education. So I became a community assistant. I was able to attend an orientation during the summer, and so I was doing that during the summer. And then I was drinking with a couple buddies of mine, and I did the stupidest shit, pulled the fire alarm, right? And I booked it just on some shits and giggles, right? And so one of the other assistants that's been a community assistant for like 2+ years now, he saw what I did, and he called the cops on me. And so because of that was my second strike. There was like, yeah, we can't allow you to be on campus anymore. Like, we have to make an example out of you. Mm-hmm. And so you're gonna get suspended for a whole year. I was like, what? This is crazy. Like, after everything I've been involved in, and I've given back to the community in a way here, like, I know I was messing around. I had a couple of drinks, but yeah, man, they that second strike was like, yeah, there's no third strike, we're done. And so I got suspended for a whole year after that, and then that's when I had to like reconfigure my life again and what I wanted to do, because that higher education path was no longer an option. It was my record had I forget what the actual terminology of it as was too. But they had a marking on it where I couldn't get another job on campus, right? Or even I would have a challenge going to get a master's degree if I wanted to. So that's when Josara came in clutch, and she gave me the opportunity, and she knew what was going on. I told her everything that was happening, and she was the only one that gave me the opportunity to come back on campus and work. Because I had no other job. I was working at Bank of America, but it wasn't going to work with me being a full-time student as well. So it was very challenging.
During that year suspension, do you remember what your thoughts were at the onset of it, and then how those morphed by the end of it?
Yeah, man. I mean, such a challenging time now that I'm thinking back into it because, again, it was like I had built up this character of like, being involved and being part of a community and whatnot in college. I finally had a sense of direction of what I wanted to do after college. And now all that gets shut down. It's just like, oh shit, I can't do that anymore. What am I going to do now? And so I was in a very depressed state, facing the disappointments from my parents as well too, and the backlash that came from that, and the rest of my family too. Constantly shining the light on what I did wasn't helpful at all, and so yeah, I decided to work at Bank of America to see if something I can climb up the ladder, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this. This is no way I can work like a corporate job and do this. It's not for me. So it was very challenging in that sense because I didn't know what I was going to keep on doing as far as like my direction in life. And at the same time, it was a beautiful opportunity to go ahead and pursue something completely different, right? Which is like, fuck it, might as well do something creative in some way, shape, or form. And so during that time that I was suspended, that's when I started to pick up dancing again and like wanting to be open-minded to see like where this takes me, because it's just like I've tried other things and that door's closed. So, and I wasn't going to force it to open up. And so I started to luckily I still had my fraternity that I was still really, really involved with and still cool with. And so I started to involve myself more, wanting to learn more how to step and stroll with them, and what that process would look like, and see how to go from there while still trying to get like a little side job. Like I said, I was in Bank of America trying to make some cash and pay some bills and whatnot. And then getting ready to go back to college. Cause I did think about like not going back. I did think about like just fuck it, I'm just gonna figure something else out. But I'm like one of those people that I have to finish what I start. And so I have 1 year left. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to go back and just finish it out. Yeah, but that opened the avenue to wanting to pursue something creative, man. And that's how I got back into the creative aspect of things. Because when I got to college, I stopped drawing, I stopped doing everything creative, and I was focused on more, like I said, community stuff and being involved on campus. So, yeah.
What came first, dancing or drawing?
In my life, drawing came first as a kid. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember on your Instagram. Did you post one of the first pictures you ever drew?
I did. No, the first actual picture that I can think of that I drew, that was actually a figure or something, was like Squirtle from Pokemon. So Squirtle was my first favorite Pokemon when I first was introduced to it. So I remember I was like in first grade drawing that shit. But I don't have it. I don't have that picture with me at all. I did post on Instagram, and if you probably see, it's probably like tagged up top, one of the Dragon Ball pictures. Like my drawings growing up as a kid, the progression of it. So I draw a lot of Dragon Ball once I became introduced to it, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
This isn't one of your originals, but it's one of the ones that was from 2017, so a little while back. For the Spotify and Apple podcast audience, could you describe who this is?
Oh, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Muhammad Ali. Yeah.
Did he play any role in your life, or are some of you, or sometimes when you just draw, do you just choose someone and you're like, fuck it, that's draw Muhammad today?
Yeah, and I mean, Muhammad had some, I enjoyed some of his, I didn't follow him religiously, And I don't follow any of these figures like religiously. I don't dive too deep into them, right? But I do get inspired by them, and I take aspects of them. I love the way Muhammad Ali, from what I've seen, right? Because you can only see so much on what's being shown on media. You don't know the person behind closed doors. But he seemed like a very composed man, right? Like he was a fighter, a vicious fighter, right? But outside the ring, man, he was a respectful, composed man from what I saw. And so I really enjoyed how he carried himself, almost like in a stoic way, of sorts. And so I appreciate that about Muhammad Ali. And I did watch a lot of boxing growing up too with my dad. So it was like tying the two together.
What did was drawing for you when you were a kid and when you were learning how to draw? Was it just for fun, or did it do something for you? Is like a maybe not an escape, but yeah, what did it do for you? Was it purely just for fun and a hobby, or was it something else?
Good question. These questions are amazing because it's making me go back to think about these different timelines in my life. But
And I'm hopping you around too,
Yeah,
which isn't making it easy.
no, but
College, back to high school, back to 30, back to 14.
it's great. It's great though. I appreciate it though, man, because it just makes me even more reflective about things I probably wouldn't think about as much or don't think about at all anymore. You know.
Yeah.
But I know for sure that drawing for me was like just pure fun and a hobby growing up. You know. Man, I remember I would be in class and I had a very short attention span to what was being taught, and so I would rather just draw and create. And it was like a lot more fun for me. And then for me, it was always choosing what was more fun, which has ended up getting me in trouble. But that's what I found fun at the moment. And so I enjoy drawing because of that. I also was like inspired by like the cartoons and animations I saw. Like, man, I want to draw that, right? And it made me want to aspire to be like an animator when I was growing up and stuff like that. Eventually, as I got older, and I started to be more aware of like some of the stuff that I was facing and the emotions that was happening in my life, I started to draw as an outlet, right, and to really express some more of like the darker sides that were coming up or things that I was envisioning. And so, and especially when I was having like really, really heavy, intense emotions, that was my only outlet. I didn't really have an outlet growing up where I was able to really express what was happening within. It was all just compartmentalized and then just keep it boxed in, you know. And art was for me like the safe space to do though that and through music. So I would always listen to music and then create art, and that's just like my safe flow state for me, if that makes sense.
Let's talk about music for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to say a name, and I wonder if you'll just say whatever comes to mind as soon as you hear it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Michael Jackson.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Damn, bro, you hitting the roots here. You hitting the roots today. Yeah. Dude, Michael Jackson, yeah, such a huge staple in my childhood. One of the very few artists I believe that has created so much feel good music. And yeah, I just remember like many other kids in this world that he's inspired in the 90s and 80s and beyond that. Who wouldn't want to fucking get up and dance a Michael Jackson throw, try to do the moonwalk, the spin. So yeah, man, he's an artist that helped me feel good as a human. You know, I think that he was also big in his message of wanting to like build community, bring the people together through love. Spoke about the injustices in the system as well too. I know there were some other things going on with kids, but I don't know what took place. So with that, but all I know is that what he left behind in terms of music was like food for the soul.
Yeah.
And so that's an inspiration for me to feel good whenever I've drawn as well too.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think that's a general debate in my family is, let's just sit here for a second and assume that all the worst things that were said about Michael Jackson were true.
Mm-hmm.
Would you stop listening to his music? Just like I remember there was something a couple years ago where Chick-fil-A did or said something that was not pro the LGBTQT community,
Mm-hmm.
and so someone in my life, I don't want to badmouth people on here, someone in my life was like, no one can eat there ever again. And I'd forgot about that. And in my head, too, when I heard that, I was like, well, I'm going to go back to Chick-fil-A. And so a couple months later, I think I went to Chick-fil-A on my way there. And I go run through the front door with my chicken sandwich. And this person was livid. And for me, it's we'll go back to the Michael Jackson example. Even if all the worst was true, I think I'd still play his music. And even if none of it was true, I think I would still play his music, because it's like you said, that those songs, as someone who doesn't enjoy dancing, I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't pop on a Michael Jackson song every now and then, and I'm in the middle of that family room dancing as a way to hype myself up before a podcast guest arrives. You just heard something that 88 I've not admitted to a single soul on this planet.
Oh, it's so good.
Where do you stand on those types of topics when some sort of entity is creating this thing that's so enjoyable, and then they have a misstep in their journey? How do you personally sort of process those moments?
Yeah, great question. And this is why, like, I still hold him dear in my heart as one of my, like, favorite all-time artists, and it's because of that. Because, we're all having a human experience, right? And so we're going to make choices or mistakes along the way that can be frowned upon by our peers or people around us, right? However, he's one of the few artists, in my opinion, that creates soulful music, like music that moves you in a way, and fills you up in a way that not many artists do, in my opinion, And so, when it comes to topics like that, I like to be mindful of, like, not judging the person on the actions or the things that are coming up for them, but also what are they still doing moving forward, or what have they put out, And so then I'm able to discern from there, like, is this something that's going to be good for me, right? Because it's not about the rest of the world per se, but more so, like, for me, like, does this align with my beliefs and the way that I feel and the way that I perceive the world as well, because there's just different levels of what people think is right or wrong in society. So yeah, I mean, despite of whatever came up for him, man, like I said, dude, I still listen to the music till this day, like Heal the World, like, such a beautiful song. Human Nature, like, bro, like, that, it just makes you want to go out and connect with people, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, timeless music, art, and still a living legend, in my opinion.
Since we're similar age, did you listen to a lot of Linkin Park growing up?
I did go through a phase of listening to Linkin Park. I did, yeah.
There is I don't know if you're starting to have these moments where you start to ask, like, am I old? But I asked there's a teen at my gym, and we were talking about something music related. And I was like, oh, they remind me of Linkin Park a little bit. And he's like, who? Like, oh no. Oh no.
I mean, wait. So it was a younger generation, though, right?
Yeah. He's probably like 19 right now.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough, but it's reality, man. It's reality.
It's whatever. I don't care that much. It was more comical to me.
Yeah.
And I pulled up, I forget what song, whatever one of their top 5 on Spotify was, and I hit play for him, and he's like, oh yeah, I would listen to that. And he's like, look how many downloads they have. How have I never heard of them? I don't know, man.
Dude, but I mean, even that, this is gonna be like more an opinion for sure, but even the music now, man, is just, and I'm pretty sure even the generation before us would say the same exact shit in the same generation before, but I feel like just the quality of music now the generation is listening to now is just not unifying, not uplifting or healing. And I'm not putting all into this box.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's taking a different turn that I see that creates more separation, division in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Overall. But yeah.
The other weird change that I just experienced 2 nights ago on Friday was me and my buddy Austin went to see a band, and this I'll tell you after if you want to know. But the lead singer is worth millions. Okay, so he has money. We show up and they start playing, and the only instrument that he brought with him was his drummer. And so about a third of the way through the concert, I asked my buddy, I was like, where are the guitar players? Where are the bass players? And there's one song in particular where on the track, on the song, there's a choir singing in the background, and that was also backtracked. And I leaned over to my buddy after the song ended while we had a couple seconds before it got noisy again, and I was like, dude, could you imagine if there had been a full band here, and he also paid a choir to show up? Because we know he has the money. This room would have been electrified. But because it's all backtracks, and we now just have a singer who's a phenomenal voice, but he's just singing along to a CD, essentially. Like I was like, this isn't where the music industry's going, where this is considered a quote-unquote live concert. Because I don't consider this a hot take. Maybe 1 million people are about to click off, but I didn't really consider that a concert because there were no instruments.
Nah, I feel that, dude.
It was sad because I love music.
Yeah.
And there wasn't music.
Yeah, I feel that. I actually I attended a couple of concerts this summer. One that's a Latino one, and one that's more R&B hip hop ish, but that's something I did appreciate. Like, my money was well invested into this experience because I saw them go all out in their concert. So I can only imagine that you, as a fan or a viewer, or that listens to the music and goes to this event, and you're not getting really your money's worth of the experience. Almost feels like a steal in some way, shape, or form, right? Like, you get to hear the music to some degree, but you want to feel the full experience, not just through the listening ear, but in your whole body.
It's more, I didn't, in full transparency, it wasn't even about the money. It was that as humans, maybe I shouldn't speak for everyone, I myself like to feel. And so when I go to a concert, I have this anticipation of, I get to see Austin, we're going to eat some food that's really unhealthy for us, and then the lights are going to come on, the band is going to come on stage, and 3,000 people are going to be yelling and screaming, and maybe we'll cry at some songs, and maybe we'll be just screaming our heads off at the end of other ones, but I'm looking forward to this night of experiencing all these emotions. And I don't know what that says about me, but it's like I still felt some of those, but I also just feel like that feeling would have been amplified had there been a full band there.
Yeah, I feel that, man.
Tickets were $8, to be honest. Maybe that's why I didn't bring a full band. It was my fault. It was the attendees' fault. He's like, "Oh, we're only charging $8. We'll send out one singer."
That brings more clarity to the situation. I wonder if the rest of his concerts were like that too as well. But
no, I mean, we were in the nosebleeds. If we sat up front, they were charging $2.30. So they definitely made some money by swinging through. Because cheapest were $8, most expensive were $2.30, and I'm sure 80% of ticket sales were somewhere in between there. But
yeah.
Anyways, we have belabored that point, unless there's something else that you would like to add as a closing
No,
thought
I mean, ultimately is just like, as an artist, man, I feel like, and I know how challenging it could be as a creator, as an artist, but it's doing your best to put your best work out there as consistent as possible, and whether that's with artists and their concerts and stuff like that, whether they drop an album once every 2-3 years and then they tour, whatever the case may be, it's like, the best thing you can do to give to your fans is like a really wonderful experience, because that's something that they'll always remember. Look how you haven't forgotten about that, right? So that's really my take on that as an artist, as a creative.
Yeah. What are you laughing at?
No, dude, just your experience is wild. I'm like, that's crazy. One drummer, that's it? Oh, man.
All right, I'm glad it's not just me and Austin that are off our rocker here. I did. He did ask me on the drive home. He was like, "Are we being judgmental little assholes right now?" I was like, no, "There's no way that we were the only two people that were like, wait, where is everyone?"
Yeah. Nah, dude, you gotta put on a show. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's transition this way. I have one more picture for you.
Shift.
Was this high school graduation?
College.
That was college. Why did I think you dropped out of college? You didn't. You finished. You graduated.
I did. I got suspended for a year, junior year.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
that's
what it
right.
was. Mhm.
That's right. My apologies.
Yeah, no
Who were
worries.
the who are these people? I assume sister and mom, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Sister and mom.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Can you tell the story of your first tattoo?
Oh, my first tattoo ever. It's actually right here on my thigh. You can't see
It's
it.
not this one.
Oh, I thought you meant like me tattooing somebody. Okay, tattooing skin. Fair enough. My first
Sorry.
tattoo that I ever received.
That you received.
Okay,
How
so
old were you? The where? Why you placed it there? I think you told me the story on the phone, which is why I'm teeing you up for it
Yeah.
for the audience so they can hear it now.
got it, got
Yeah.
it. So my first tattoo, I think it was like around 21, 22. And going backtrack into it, I believe I got tattooed in that time that I got suspended from college. I went to one of my during that time I was feeling a lot of pain and stuff like that, and challenges in my life because of that whole transition and that gap that took place. And so I remember I was watching a Rocky Balboa movie, and I think it was a fourth when he gives like his speech to the son about life is not all sunshine and rainbows, a nasty place, and it will beat you to the ground and leave you there permanently if you let it. It's not about how hard you get hit. It's how hard. It's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. And so, I decided to go with that quote and get that tattooed on my chest. And the reason why I had such an emotional tie to that particular scene, it's because like during that time that I was going through that challenging period, I was also like in a very bad state with my relationship with my father, and that's something that I wish I had more of a father figure growing up and going through that phase, because me and him stopped talking, and stopped really connecting. Well, the relationship started to dwindle in my teen years, right? It started to go downhill because of certain experiences. But when I got to college, that's when like I was saying, I went really on my path of trying to be more of a free spirit and figure out who the fuck I was, right? Mm-hmm. Respectfully to my parents. And my dad wasn't having it. And so I couldn't really be myself and having my dad in my corner. So I did still choose myself. And so it was something that I wish that I had more support of my dad during my college experience, so that he wasn't really around for it. And so that scene moved me, man. And then it just remembering all the challenges and hardships I've had dealt with in life already up until that point that I got that first tattoo, I was like, I'm gonna go for this quote, because it's just like no matter what happens to me, I'm still gonna keep moving forward. You know, I'm gonna keep prevailing forward and figuring out and blazing a path, no matter how challenging it gets, no matter what adversity I may deal with along the way. And so I went to one of my buddies that I went to high school with, and I went to one of his house and got my first tattoo there. And I just remember there just like not even twitching or moving or anything, but it was so uncomfortable and painful. Uh, but I was just absorbing all the pain. Like this is like what I'm made for. Just absorb the pain and keep moving forward in life in some way, shape, or form. Which was like the mindset I had that was helping me go through it. But that was a beautiful experience because it helped me see that I can pursue something creative and also make money doing it. Right. I had a hard time envisioning being an artist or a creative of any sort growing up because I didn't have any examples around me that were living that lifestyle. So I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to do this? And so I went to him and I was like, oh shit, I can probably pursue tattooing. This is probably going to bring me a whole new level of backlash within my family and people around me. But it's a good way to connect my artistry with something else that's more tangible, financially. And so that kind of like planted the seed, right? I didn't pursue it fully yet. I was just like, let me consider this and see where this goes. And at that time, I was also, like I mentioned before, I was pursuing dancing and stepping and strolling. So like doing more shows and stuff like that on campus and school and in different schools as well.
What is art?
What is art? Hmm. expression, feelings, imagination, structure, flow, peaceful, chaotic, black and white, colorful, one dimension, multidimensional, perspective, intellectual, creation, life, and death.
She never looked nice. She looked like art, and art isn't supposed to be nice. It's supposed to make you feel something. It's a quote by Rainbow Rowell that you have on your Instagram. It's a beautiful quote. I love though. I love your definition, man. That black and white, but also colorful, one-dimensional, multi-dimensional, and it's also why did you say life and death?
Because it's a process, it's a creative. So even with tattooing, right? But you begin the process of creation, of creating something, like bringing to a blank canvas an idea or something from your imagination or something that's already been created, but you're starting from scratch. That to me is creation. That to me is giving life to the canvas, right? And then, and also in perspective to that, it's like what you can create, you can also create death. You can also express death. You can also express chaos through artistry, right? And so once you complete a work, it goes, it's in the way that I perceive it, it's like it goes through like a death process. Like you have to let it go. You can't hold on to it, right? And that for me has been such a challenging thing growing up, that I've been able to, like, tattooing has helped me transform that. And it's because, like, growing up as a kid, I used to love to create and give it to people and give it away. And then it was like undervalued and underappreciated. So I began to hoard all my artwork and stuff like that, right? And so I've learned to tattooing is a huge thing, because it's just like, oh man, like I'm putting my best work on this living canvas. I can't hold on to it. I have to let it go. And so it's an emotional process that I go through whenever I create art. There's like an attachment portion to it, to give it my all, but then to also detach and let it go. But it keeps on living on.
Love that.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about the journey from when you got your first tattoo on your chest at your buddy's house to becoming a tattoo artist.
Ooh. So I got my first tattoo, and then when I was learning to dance and to move, I had one of my best friends, Schwing. He referred me to one of his artists that did like a half sleeve on him. And so I wanted to expand onto my chest and create a piece there. And so I was going for a koi fish. And the vision was to create a koi fish that was like swimming up the waterfall, and to go through that transformation in order to turn into that dragon after facing, the uphill climb and all the challenges and going against the current and whatnot. And so I wanted to get a koi fish just to go along with the quote that I had on my chest, and to just symbolize just the struggles, but also the strength that I have in my journey within. So I went to the artist that he recommended, and he did that design for me, and then he gave me the opportunity to be an apprentice. Right. So that was pretty cool, because then I was like, okay, so maybe I should start pursuing art again and start drawing. So working with him opened up the Pandora's box into that, and into the plant medicine realm as well too, because that time I was curious, but I hadn't really, again, had someone tangible that I can like have access to these different perspectives or healing modalities and whatnot. And so I did my apprenticeship with him, and it was cool at first, but I faced some things along the way where I didn't resonate with or like, and I didn't have the courage to speak up on it and to really voice the way that I felt. Um, because some of it could have been too, like, having a naive perspective on how this whole thing went. I didn't know what an apprenticeship was. I didn't know how to move around this whole thing, and uh, after that happened, I was an apprentice with him for like 6 months. Uh, they let me go, him and his wife, and so I had to like go back and like figure out, like, is tattooing really for me? Is it something that I really should be pursuing? I wasn't tattooing yet, so again, I didn't have no support from anybody around me at all, right? The support didn't come till once I started tattooing, but uh, I was like, how am I supposed to do this? And so again, once I start something, I need to finish it. I don't want to leave it undone. So I'm like, let me go at this again. So I tried applying for this under this other artist. Their shop was like in Paterson, New Jersey. And I went an apprenticeship. Tried to apprentice with her, and I didn't have a portfolio available for her because I had stopped drawing, so I didn't meet the requirements to get in, and so that door was closed. But there's something about it that I was like, I want to keep knocking out this door and like push my way through it and go in, and so she told me to work on my art and then to come back again. Like in a year to ask if she has any apprentices available. And so I was disappointed again. I was like, fuck, man, I have to go. I have to create some art and then do this. I just want to learn how to tattoo. Um, so after that, I was discouraged. So I went to a tattoo convention, inked out in Jersey, and I went to go connect and meet different artists. I had some of the portfolio build up already, and so I connected with this other guy and his wife, and they were all the way up in Boonton, New Jersey. And they gave me a shot their apprenticeship, and it was pretty cool. And I was there maybe for like another 5 months, 6 months, and then I walked away from that apprenticeship. And the reason why is because the truth is like the fact that the other door was closed on me, that's the door that I wanted to go through. And so uh, I wanted to go learn from her in particular and not the previous artist. And so I ended up walking away from that one, and then just really after that, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna wait it out, and I'm going to like work on my artwork. And so a lot of the drawings that you see, like the Muhammad Ali, that's when I picked up the pencil again and like really started to like dial in, and focus on my art. Uh, I started to smoke cannabis like more consistently too because it helped me be in a flow state to create the art, and really just like feel the music and just disconnect from the outside world and just focus on that path. Uh, because like I said, it wasn't a fun. That part of my life was not fun. It was like very hard work because uh, I had graduated from college. I was working at Apple, and I was trying to become an apprentice, and so along the way, my home conditions wasn't the right condition for me to really thrive, but somehow I was able to still figure out a way on how to create art during those challenging times. And so shortly after that, I mean, not shortly, but it took like a couple of years. By 20, I think this is from 2016 when I graduated college up until 20, uh, 18 is when I got the apprenticeship. So it took 2 years. I had quit Apple because I just couldn't work at Apple anymore. The environment was like too overwhelming for me, and at that point too, I started to learn more about myself in the sense that I have like really high levels of sensitivity and like technology and people around me, and it wasn't after being there for like almost 3 years, it just wasn't the right environment for me anymore. And I really just wanted to go all in into the art. So I quit Apple like a year before I got an apprenticeship, and I was just drawing and then doing commission artwork from home. And that's when I started to receive support from from the community that I had in college, which was amazing. And like to this day, I'm so grateful because again, my home conditions wasn't able to create that better state for me, but we managed to work through that. So, uh, worked at my art. I was able to prove to myself that yes, I can get the apprenticeship. I got the shot at the apprenticeship, and then I was there for a year, like right up until COVID. So I completed my apprenticeship in 2019, and then by COVID, when COVID hit, that's when I feel like a lot of people's perspective made them like rethink life and what direction it's supposed to be heading into. And so, yeah, that created a transition to the next chapter. But it's been quite. It was like 3 years of three different shops and different apprenticeships trying to like just get that. At a point, at first, man, it was more so like the eagerness and the curiosity to learn the skill set, right? Genuinely. And then it became a point of like, I just need to get this fucking certificate, this license, and I need a tattoo now. Because I wanted to go the professional route. I didn't want to be in a house and like tattoo out of a basement. I don't want to go with that, label over tattooing and whatnot. But I wanted to do it the right way, going through a shop, and so that's why I stuck on that path for so long and didn't walk out until I saw it through and do my own thing. So eventually became like, I just need this paper, cool. I just need to have the credibility that I can be a tattoo artist. And then from there was like really learning the skill set, now hands-on experience, because that's really the best way that I learn is by being hands-on and start doing the actual thing and not doing respectfully to the industry, but like shop bitch work. Like it's just that doesn't work for me. Like, that's another form of hazing. And I respect transitions, and I respect traditions, and I respect the different systems that people have used throughout tattooing, but it's just not the most effective thing for everyone. Like not one shoe fits all, you know. So I learned a lot for sure in my journey getting to be a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I like about you, Bryan?
What's up?
Well, there's a couple things. But one of them in particular that you've probably done about 3 times now in this episode is when you're not sure what direction you want the conversation to take, you're okay with putting both your hands on your knees, closing your eyes, and taking that moment to think about what should I say next. And I appreciate that. I think, myself included, we get awkward with silence sometimes. Or there have been times when I'm editing this podcast and I've wondered why I haven't stopped to slow down. So I like that you have that ability to do that. Is that something that you had to practice?
Thank you for that. I greatly appreciate that.
Sure. You're welcome.
Yes, I've had to practice it and be comfortable with. In our conversation and showing up here today is just and talking about my story and about myself. It's like I'm very much an introvert, right? But I can be an extrovert around the right kind of people. But it's like my story, dude. Like 32 years of experience. Like how can I show up in the most authentic way and also like share my truth, right? And what I've been through in my journey. So it's important for me to be able to pause and to share that piece with you so that you're receiving the best part of me, you know what I'm saying, as opposed to like a rushed answer. But it's something I've had to practice for sure. I come from a very fast speaking, fast moving household, and especially in the Northeast, man. Even just being an hour ahead from here, the Northeast has like a very fast paced way of life. And so everyone is always on the go, 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 go. And when I moved out here, it gave me the opportunity to begin to exercise moving slower. And for my sanity and for my energy, like I have to move at a slower pace than everyone else and be comfortable with that. And I have to move at the pace of everyone else around me. And so it's been a practice for sure. And that helps with grounding, and that helps me with like to start my day so that, I get the thoughts as well. I get the emotions. I get the human experience just like any other human here. It's just like, how can I just be as present as possible? And that's one of the things that helps me do that.
What is grounding?
Grounding. Great question. So grounding for me is to be able to sit down, touching the earth, feet on the ground, bare feet, and taking a deep breath in and connecting with the earth, connecting with this experience, being able to step away from name, personality, stepping away from to-do lists, from goals, from anything else that I have to do, and just be here in this moment with this living earth. It's to bring it back home to self. It's like in my breath. Okay, we are here, and that gives me a good start to the day.
You know, I would love to do this on my morning walks with the dog. And we've been walking these trails out here for a year and a half. And it's been the most peaceful part of my day. I typically leave my phone here unless I have a day like today where I know you're coming over around noon. If you text me, I want to get back to that as soon as possible to be respectful of you. But most of the time I don't bring my phone. The only thing I would change is to go barefoot, but I will not do that because we saw one of these guys out there about 2 weeks ago. So in general, snakes don't scare me, but the picture I just showed Brian is a Texas coral snake, and they are poisonous.
Yeah.
And when I saw him, it was in one of our nighttime walks, and the sun had gotten down already, and there's not a lot of streetlights out there, so I'll bring my flashlight with me. And about 20 feet ahead of me, I see this black thing on the ground, and I think at first it's a stick. And then as I'm walking closer to it, it starts moving. And immediately I just got all these chills up and down my spine. And I get a little bit closer, and then I see the black, the red, and the yellow. It's very shiny, almost as if it was had like a moist exterior. Mm-hmm. And then it slithers into the grass. It's probably about 4 feet long. And as it slithers into the grass, I'm following it with my flashlight. And even though I saw it go in the grass was just high enough, I couldn't see it. And then that made me get the tingles again.
The shivers up the whole body.
And I grabbed the dog. I was like, we're turning around. We're going.
We out of here.
And I've gone on a nighttime walk since then. If I'm running late and it's like 7:20 and the sun's going down, I'm fucking looking like a narcissist on the road, driving home at 80 miles an hour, cutting people off, purely to walk my dog before the sun goes down, because I don't want to step on one of those guys.
I respect the intention. Yeah, dude, nah, that's creepy. Yeah, you definitely want to get bit by that. But you don't have to necessarily like spend an entire trail walking barefoot, just to be able to sit down somewhere and just be still in a particular spot with your feet touching the ground. That's like more than enough. Yeah. But I also think, dude, that's a beautiful omen too, like to have a snake cross your path, regardless of the type of snake it is.
What kind of omen is that?
It's like a beautiful omen for transformation and rebirth. The snake tends to shed the skin, so it's almost like symbolic to the human experience. Like maybe you're going through something in that particular chapter of your life that it's time for a transformation or a rebirth process that you're undergoing. So that's one of my favorite things when connecting with nature, and you come across these coincidental creatures that you don't always come across to. Can be symbolic to where you are in your journey in life. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. But that poison snake though, man, it's no joke. I would freak out too.
Yeah. On all of your Instagram pictures, I noticed that you took a moment to say thank you for looking. I think there's an obvious reason why one would do that, but why do you make sure to make that a priority to do that on the majority of your posts?
Dude, we're just going to pause real quick for a second. I love and appreciate how detailed you are and how much research you did into my stuff, man. Like, no, but seriously, because I value and appreciate when you're having a conversation with someone and someone deeply listens to you. And so the fact that you've taken the time out, we did not know each other at all prior to this interaction today, right?
Right.
And that you've brought up very key moments and attention to detail to the stuff on my page and my work overall. I think it's very beautiful, and I appreciate that, dude. So thank you for your attention to detail.
You're welcome.
And being mindful of that.
Sure.
Thank you for looking.
Yeah. Thank you for being grateful for this. Man, that comment made me a little emotional and I think it's just because that is like that 10-second homage that you just paid me is gonna carry with me for the next couple of days, weeks, hours, and that is I think that hit home from what we were talking about earlier is just sometimes feeling like this journey can be sort of lonely at times when I'm doing all the editing by myself, the researching by myself. So thank you for acknowledging the work that I put in behind the scenes. That means a fuck ton.
Yeah,
Thank
dude.
you.
Yeah, my pleasure, brother. Thank you. Seriously. Thank you for looking. It's just an appreciation for people that take time out and look at my work, man, and comment on my work or like my work. Very similar to you, like just being an artist is a very lonely path. Period. You know, it takes a lot of time to be in the lab and to create, and a lot of the time it's most of the time it's really in isolation, in a lone space. And so when people take the time out to again comment, like, or wanting to get work done by me, it means a lot to me, because I remember what it was like when I was having no eyes on my work. I remember what it was like having no eyes growing up on my work, and now it's like I do. So the simple gesture of that is just an appreciation. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you when you tattooed? Did you tattoo someone else? Or the very first time that you personally tattooed someone, was it someone else or was it yourself?
Myself.
Were you nervous at all?
Fuck yeah. Bro.
What was it?
So the first tattoo I did on myself was right here on my thigh. It's covered up, but it's a Goku, a Dragon Ball piece. It's Goku, right? And so the reason why I went and did this on myself, this particular image, is because Dragon Ball has been such a huge staple in my childhood, of always wanting to surpass your limitations and getting stronger and better and better. And so I think it does a very beautiful representation of that. Theirs is more physical, but for me it's like more just all inclusive, mental, spiritual, and physical. Even though there's some mental and spiritual in there as well too. But anime is what got me back into drawing again, right after I took a break. And so watching Dragon Ball had stopped for like 4 or 5, if not longer, years. I forget how long it stopped being animated. And when it came back on, it was Dragon Ball Super, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, dude!" I went to go see the first Dragon Ball movie ever. I know not the first ever, but my first ever Dragon Ball movie theater by myself to the theater. I was like, I'm gonna go by myself. I'm gonna enjoy this. I go in, I see hella nerds and geeks. I was like, my people. I was like, I'm not the only one. It was so cool, man. Just because, like, you know, to some degree, like growing up, there is being in school, like it was frowned upon to some degree if you were still into that stuff, and so especially college. But anyways, it was a representation of me surpassing my limitations and sticking through tattooing and getting to this point. And so I decided to do that, and then to tattoo myself first was very important for me because I needed to understand and know what I was going to do someone else onto my own skin. And so, like I mentioned before, I'm a very hands-on person, so I don't want to practice. I mean, I'm going to have to say this, but essentially part of my first year, what it was practicing other people, you know, even though it's part of the experience, but just learning how to do a tattoo. I needed to understand what that pain threshold, or how deep to go into the skin, what was a blowout, what was shading like, what was the other person experiencing, so that when I'm touching that person, I'm mindful of how I'm making them feel with the machine.
You know, I don't have any tattoos, and so I never even considered the aspect that if you've got a tattoo on your forearm, your knee, wherever, you know exactly what your client is going through as you paint on them.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because it's one thing to get tattooed, and it's another thing to do it on yourself, right?
Right.
So yeah, it was insightful. It was so great that I had to do my other thigh, and I did another one on this side, but no, it wasn't great. The first time I did this, dude, it took me 2 days. So I spent I remember I dipped the ink into the needle into the ink, and then I grazed my skin. And I was like, why the fuck am I doing this to myself? Questioned the whole thing. Took like a 20-minute break, refocused, and I was like, all right, we gotta finish what we started. And so eventually we did after 2 days, and then I was like, all right, cool, I got the hang of it. And then I did a second piece on my left thigh.
Were you by yourself?
Essentially, no, I was in a shop.
Okay.
The second one I was by myself in a shop, but I was by myself, hands on, doing the tattoos for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
And how about your first time tattooing someone else? What was that very first experience like?
My first client I remember was Chantel. I used to work with Apple at her with her at Apple. Huge supporter as well. Dude, I remember she had like she needed a touch up on on a son that she had, I believe, on her wrist.
Okay.
And I remember sitting down preparing for this experience. I was nervous the entire time, but it's interesting because you're not. I'm not one to really show my emotions too much on the outside per se, but I remember that day I was tattooing her. Like I was so composed on the upper half of my body, right? And she's sitting down, and there was like an armrest. But below, dude, my legs were like shaking like this, like crazy. I was like, but I'm trying to be so still up here.
Yeah.
It was such a nerve-wracking process of just just the fear of failure, the fear of fucking someone else tattoo of it's already there.
Right.
Made me super nervous, but that little by little went away throughout more experiences of tattooing and having more confidence in the skill set.
Yeah. Do you even get nervous now? Or is it?
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's probably like almost like second nature.
Yeah.
How many have you done at this point? Or either how many? I mean, they're so different in size and shape. I guess. What would be a better question? Others that are going through my head is like, how many hours do you think you spent tattooing, or how many?
Dude, that's such a great question. The number I do not know. Because like how you said, there's so many I've done from the smallest itty bitty tattoos to like large scale work now. Hours, I wouldn't be able to give you a number.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
To the client who got this tattoo, I'm sorry. The question is, what's the request that made you the most either nervous or maybe doubtful of yourself, or maybe like, is there one where you saw the image or they sort of articulated to you what they wanted done, and you got particularly nervous, or is that a good question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, let's go with it then.
So, in all transparency, the actual artwork never really intimidated me or made me nervous, right? What made me nervous is the application of tattooing onto skin, creating that. Like if someone was to give me, hey, I want you to create this with a pencil and paper, I'll knock that out without a problem because
Right.
I feel confident. I put so much practice and work into it. With paper and a pencil, you can erase. You can do other ways to manipulate that to make it come out as perfect as possible, right? However, with tattoo, you do not have the ability to erase. So because of that fact that it's permanent, made it more challenging and nerve-wracking whenever I would engage in a tattoo. So, I mean, dude, and this would be from the simplest thing. Let's say you want the word faith. I can write faith any other day, right, on a pencil and paper. When it came to tattooing, it's like a whole different variable because, again, the skin is alive. It's has a potential to bleed. The client has a potential to shake, to move. There's just a lot of different variables that go into a tattoo experience that has made it more challenging in creating something that can be so simply done, right? And so, again, that took time with practice. Sometimes there's just so many different variables, right? So, for example, when using a tattoo machine, I started off with coils, which is required more of a cable that was connected to the power supply. It's been so while since I used one, but you have to put the needle into the tube. You have to make sure that the tube and the needle, like it's hitting at a certain rate and it's hitting right. You have to make sure that it's taking in the ink properly. So like when you dip it and go into the skin, is it going to be able to hold the ink and be able to pull a line cleanly? Can you pull a line? You have to stretch the skin. You have to put ointment onto the skin. You have to also engage in conversation with the client. You also have to pay attention that you're creating the image properly. Like it was just so much stuff happening at once, and it was so overwhelming these are things that you're not really taught when you're going through a tattoo apprenticeship. At least it wasn't as thorough for me. But again, I'm not going to say that I wasn't given lessons or like tips and tricks on how to work around this path, because a lot of it for me is like, okay, like, you can tell me this, but I still have to do it at the end of the day and like experience the hands-on journey. But uh yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, man. A lot of focus, a lot of energy. um and even fast forward to where I'm at now, it's just like, I don't know how the fuck I did that earlier on. I guess like when you just want to make it to do something, and like you just take on whatever it is to take on to get to that point A to point B. But now, there's no way I would do that that journey again, dude. There's no way, honestly speaking. But it's because like I'm just more mindful now of like how efficient my energy is when it comes to tattooing, and like what's going to be more effective for me, right? Which came through trial and error.
One thing that I've noticed about me, and you might be similar in this because you mentioned earlier that you can be an introvert at times, is I'm great talking to people one on one. At least I hope I am. But recently there is an opportunity to. I was invited to something where I knew I was going to be in a room full of people, and the only person that I would know is the person that invited me. And I said yes because the notion of that made me uncomfortable, and I thought this is a muscle that I want to work in a sense. So I go to the event, and I will just tell you right now, I did not enjoy myself at all. I I worked. I explored the entire room in the 3.5-ish hours that I was there, and I was looking for what group of people can I sort of engage with, and for me it was particularly challenging. And so I left, and I don't regret that I went. But do you have a similar type personality where when you're with a client and you're working on them one on one, or you're on a podcast, you can make that connection and get a pretty good conversation going pretty easily? But then if you're more in a group setting, a party, a club, a bar, wherever the dang thing is, you have a harder time sort of figuring out, why is it that I can talk with Bryan for 2.5 hours, but then I come to this thing and I can't get something rolling for more than 5 minutes and end up defaulting to, well, it sure is hot out here in Austin today, isn't it?
Seriously. Always a weather topic comes up. Always a weather topic comes up. Dude, I feel that, man. I resonate. So, yes. For me, it's a similar experience in the sense that I thrive and I enjoy one-on-one conversations because it allows me to dive in deeper than having surface level conversation. I'm not here to have, if I'm going to engage in an energetic exchange with someone, I would love to like not get super deep, but like get in depth more than the usual or what you normally have with someone else, right? Yeah. And so I value that and appreciate that, which is why like I enjoy tattooing, and I only tattoo like one client a day because of that, because I have to give my attention and all my focus to just one client, one experience, and that's it. That's what's most efficient for me, and it adds and it creates the experience that I do with my clients. It's interesting too, man, because I found myself reflecting back to my college days and how much I used to be involved in being in communities and whatnot, and how much I thrived and enjoyed being around people, right? And I can't do that now. I've been in different events out here. Environment is also key. I think plays a major role as to how one is able to be more in depth. So I think being around a group of people is also very important. But most of the time, I'd rather just be like either in a very small group or like just one-on-one conversations with an individual and then connect that way. Cause it just creates an opportunity for deeper connection. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, if it's a bigger environment, there's more people involved, I can find myself, adapting, almost like shape-shifting in a way to be able to, connect with different individuals and being okay. That's something that I've had to accept too in my journey. It's like, well, you know what, I'm not always going to have in-depth conversations with everyone, so it's okay to have just like quick conversations with people and just make a quick connection, and that's it, and be okay with that, because like I said, a part of me wanted to consistently have just in-depth, and that's all I want. No, like we need to have variety. So, but again, the ratio of more group interactions to like one-on-one, the one-on-one is way higher than group interactions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll shout out a different event that I went to called the Internet Marketing Party. You ever heard of it by chance?
I've come across that. I've been curious to attend that actually.
Let me tell you a little bit about my first experience. First off, I would say, even if you ever want to go, even as just a one-time thing, please go.
Yeah.
I only have good things to say about it, just because, for a couple reasons. One, I felt like the least experienced person in the room, and I need that every now and then. And I'm not saying that in a self-deprecating. It'd be like if you went to a tattoo convention and everyone there had been doing it for years longer than you, creating work that you would like to create, and you're like, these are all people I can learn from. You're not putting yourself down. It's an excitement of like what, this is great. You know, it was so, I hopefully I'm articulating that well, but as I had conversations with people throughout the night, I could tell that their businesses were so much more farther than the podcast was. I was excited to be around and it goes back to the notion of surrounding yourself with the type of people that you want to become. So if I'm going to throw out a ridiculous number. If I make $10,000 a year and all my friends make $10,000 a year, what are the chances of us breaking out of that type of mold? Or if I hang around people who are constantly, talking shit about themselves, then am I going to find myself constantly? So it was more of that kind of thing of like, this is a room full of people that I want to surround myself with, because I know we will all elevate each other together. So then I grab a drink and I'm sort of scanning the room. I see a group of 5 or 6 dudes that are talking. I think I'm just going to go up to that circle and see if I can join in on this conversation. So I walk over, and very kindly, they saw me approaching, and 2 of the guys even stepped out and made room for me to join the circle. The guy that was talking finished his thought, and then one of the other men looked at me and said, "What's your name and what's your superpower?" And I thought about it for a second. I pulled a Bryan. I paused. And I said something to the effect of, my name's David, and I have the ability to sit down with people and extract information from them that they may not want to give me until I feel I've collected all the information I need. And one of the guys looks at me and he says, "Seriously?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I'm out of here." And he turned around and walked away. And at first I thought it was going to be a bit where it takes like 2 to 3 steps out of the circle and then comes back. He's like, "I'm just kidding." Bryan, he left. It's like,
no way.
What are you hiding? Hey, come back.
Right, you're suspicious.
Come on the podcast. And I didn't mean to make him uncomfortable, but I thought, I don't want to just say like, "Oh, I host a podcast." It's like, because that's not the question was, "What's your superpower?"
Yeah.
And I thought, I have had multiple guests who have paid me one of the highest compliments, and after we end and we turn off the record button, they'll say something to the effect of like, I never expected to come here today and tell you that I had problems with food and body image, and that I was not allowing myself to eat and torturing myself, and this was like a therapy session for me. That's what a privilege to be able to create that for people.
Oh, that's beautiful, man.
So the Internet Marketing Party, you should go.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
That is an awesome superpower, by the way. The fact that you're able to tap into what your gift is and what you're natural in doing, dude. I'm curious, how did that make you feel when he walked away?
The conversation with the individuals that stayed in the circle was so good, I don't think I really registered it until I was driving home. And then it made me wonder, it did genuinely make me wonder what that guy would say. If maybe I had seen him later that night and he was sitting by himself, and I sat down and said something like, "Hey man, I apologize if I made you uncomfortable earlier. I was just trying to make a joke. In all reality, I'm a podcaster and we talk about business, fitness, and culture. And sometimes we go deep and sometimes we keep it more, how to generate more revenue, how to find clients for your tattoo business. But I was just wondering if there's anything on your mind tonight that you did want to talk about. I'd be curious to see what his response was.
What a beautiful opportunity that would have been if he was open-minded,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Man.
Because it goes back to the joke I made earlier about, driving home at 80 miles an hour so I can take my dog for a walk before the poisonous snakes come out. I have been trying to judge people less because you never know why that guy is speeding in his car, and you never know why that guy walked out of the circle. You don't know. I think we're inclined, or maybe because the way I was raised, who knows? Mm-hmm. I see the person speeding, they cut me off. For some reason, my knee-jerk reaction is to think that the sum of this human being is that they must be an asshole, and that's the only thing they have to offer the world. And I'm trying to pull back from that mentality. Yeah. Because sometimes I am the asshole.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, I feel that. It's important to when you become more mindful of not only your experience but the experience of others and what they could potentially be going through. Having an open mind, it creates room for less reactivity, right? And it helps you protect your peace way more than having to give it away when certain things in the outside world come and kind of like trigger that in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I'm curious. I might have to check that event out.
Just $39. Worst case scenario, you're gonna meet some awesome people.
Ah, that's a beautiful worst case scenario.
Best case scenario, you're gonna meet even more awesome people.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know if I met any tattoo artists there that night. Granted, I did not meet everyone in the room. I ended up hanging out with those few individuals for the bulk of the evening. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would encourage going.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out.
I think this is a good time to bring up the last post of yours I wanted to bring up. Mm-hmm. Would you mind reading this?
Oh my God, that's crazy. I remember this. The journey of 1,000 miles truly does start with the first step. For me, the shift started to take place when I began to be vulnerable and step into my fears, pain, and suffering. Over and over again, I would ask myself if I'm allowing myself to truly feel these feelings fully and honor them. I had spent most of my life numbing what I truly felt inside. I was living under a misconception that men shouldn't feel nor express their feelings. It was a lack of strength and masculinity. What I didn't realize is that by hiding what I felt inside, I was delaying myself from fully realizing the truth of my highest self. It was in those darkest moments where I regained courage, where I had no other choice but to focus all my attention and energy into healing myself for my highest self and to serve the world. I finally allowed myself to let go, to finally forgive, to finally be fully open to embody unconditional love, and to finally be reborn into a newer and pure version of myself. The man in the mirror. See, I got that from MJ too.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah. The concept of being a man in the mirror, yeah. Yeah. See, I like how it's all connected.
It's coming full circle. What goes through your head when you sort of reflect on that post that you made? Wow, almost 3 years ago to the day. It was September 20th, 2021.
Yeah. Oh man, what a journey it's been. There's just so much depth to my being. So when I posted that picture and wrote that out, I was in a space where I was regaining strength and power of who I am and who I be. And I was doing that through being consistent with my fitness and my health. I was doing that by being disciplined with my mindset and my thoughts. and I was doing that by being more open-hearted. And most of that came with myself, having to forgive past experiences that I went through, having to let go of experiences that I was attached to or didn't feel like were justified from my perspective, and to create space of letting go of the older versions of myself, the older identities that I was holding on to, and creating space for a newer, better version of myself that the higher version of me has already envisioned, is already out there. I just have to like create space for it. And uh, I was really able to dial in on that through like I mentioned before, my fitness, my discipline with my mindset, and by dialing in more into my spirituality and embodying the qualities of the person that I want to be like. Uh, and so that for me came with being vulnerable and open, especially on social media, on a platform that I'm exposed to other people, which was very challenging to put out there. And the reason why is because, like, as men, and especially within my upbringing, like, I didn't have the opportunity to express myself, nor did I have the example of doing so, right? I had the example of like holding all your emotions in, and what you feel doesn't matter, but it really does, because we also feel like women do, right? We feel like any other human feels in this world, or any other animal as well, to some degree, similar degree. And so uh it was a process, man, to begin to feel and move through a lot of the things that I experienced in my childhood. So that began with forgiving and letting go of the stuff that I experienced with my dad, which is also very pivotal in our relationship. That's when our relationship started to shift as well, because despite other things that I did experience with him, I decided to still choose love, man. And me and him have had such a heartfelt, many heartfelt conversations where he gives me my flowers for choosing that path, because it helped him shift his beliefs and his perspective and his dynamic and relationship with me, because it's an ongoing generational pattern that continues between father and son. And so he didn't have that opportunity with his dad. And so he was repeating a lot of the patterns that he had with his dad with me. And so me choosing a different route, I'm not going to say it's higher, because I'm not going to put myself above anybody or my father, but choosing a different path through love, through peace and harmony, allowed to create a shift in our relationship where, um, he's my homie now, and everything that happened in the past, uh, no longer anchors me in a negative way, So, yeah, just trying to lead by example by being a better human, and being vulnerable as a man, like what I go through as a man, the transformations that I'm undergoing in the actual process and the actual journey. I think it's important to share, so that other people can understand they're not alone, because we all go through it in some way, shape, or form. Uh, so, yeah, that was a huge turning point in my life during that time.
It sounds like you guys are good now.
Oh yeah. We're like best of friends.
Does he live here in Austin, or is he back in Queens?
Back in Jersey.
He's in Jersey.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Have your parents visited Austin by chance?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you think they might ever move out here?
They have considered it, but my sister is in Colombia, so they're like going back and forth as to what to do. They want to keep the family close.
Yeah.
And they do enjoy the pace of life out here as well. But they have property out there, and so they're like really committed and connected to that. So it's very challenging for them to wanting to go ahead and uproot and come out here, and start all over again in terms of getting a job and whatnot. But they do come to visit. They're actually gonna come towards the end of this month to come and babysit Atlas for a little bit, which is my dog's, my little puppy. So I'm excited for them to come out here and just to disconnect from that way of life out there and to just enjoy some time here in Austin.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you and your dad, I think you mentioned it much earlier, you guys did go through a phase where you weren't talking.
Yeah.
Was that weeks, months, years? Do you recall?
Years.
It was years.
Yeah.
Did you initiate contact or did he whenever that ended?
So I initiated both. I initiated the lack of communication, like the cutting it off, and I initiated the communication again. Yeah, both times.
Why'd you reinitiate the communication?
Great question. It really became a duty I had to fulfill because of the plant medicines that I was the journeys that I was going through and the healing that I was going through within. Uh if I didn't forgive and let go of the things that I experienced, uh I'm only making things worse in my timeline and in my story of my life, right? I was always a huge advocate and preacher about like I'm gonna be the one that breaks generational patterns, and here I am, like uh, not wanting to connect with my dad through unconditional love, despite his journey and what he's been through, and so it opened up my eyes and my heart, dude, to just to radiate love and to have faith that one day things will shift. I just have to keep showing off and being tender and being gentle because what was stopping him was his pain and his story, and what he was going through. And it's just like, oh shit, I have to have compassion for him. Even though I deserve compassion, even though I deserve love, it was my responsibility. I felt it in my heart that I had to lead in this way, because I wasn't being properly led by him. And so it was hard work, bro. I'm not going to say this was like sunshines and rainbows and like an easy path to navigate. uh it was super super challenging, but it was something that was needed, and I'm grateful for that I had the strength and the faith to see it through.
And let's say you had reinitiated contact with him, and he was the same version of himself that he was when you had stopped contact.
Hmm.
Would you still have needed to do that for yourself?
Yeah, the especially the whole forgiving part and just leading with love, absolutely.
Part of the reason I asked to give you some insight into myself is that my parents went through a really ugly divorce back around the 2008 timeframe. And me and my dad had butted heads a ton, especially in my teenage years, which I think you said that's when you started butting heads with your dad too. I won't go into the whole backstory for today's purposes, but it did get to a point where I felt like I needed my space to just get away from him for a little bit. I requested that he never contact me again. He tried two more times. Both those times I reiterated my request. And on the third one, he granted it. We didn't speak for probably about 14 years. And then we ran into each other when my sisters, they both graduated. One graduated high school and one graduated college in the exact same month. And so the family was throwing a little congratulations on these milestones type get together. And they approached me and said, hey, would you mind if dad comes? We have started talking with him again. And, we want him and you to be there. And I said, of course, I will. Yes, invite him. This is your day. And so when he got there, we greeted each other and said nothing else. And I told myself that if he initiated some sort of conversation, I would answer any questions he had, anything at all that he wanted to know about the last 14 years. I'd be willing to answer. And he never came over and had the conversation. And then, I went home, and as I was driving home, the mindset, for better or worse, that I went to was, you haven't seen your son in 14 years and you don't want to know anything about him. And it's interesting. I'm genuinely going to re-listen to what you just said about, why you reconnected with your dad, because I wonder if there's a part of me that has, one, not taken my own, what was my road? What was my role in getting to that point? You know, and do maybe I need to allow him the space to to air out that dirty laundry of, like, you know, what could I have done to be a better son, or, you know, just what from his perspective, what would he want to say to me if I did initiate that? I, and I will say a part of the reason I also don't I the other side of me on that drive home was during that event. There was a couple times where I made sure to stand closer to him to eavesdrop on some of his conversation, just to see what he was talking about with other people. And part of the reason I don't talk with him is because I believe that he loves money more than he loves humans. And I heard him essentially boasting about just financially how well he's doing. And so the reason I have justified in my own head why I'm okay going to my grave never talking to him again is because I think he just might not care. Between the fact he didn't approach me, plus the conversations he was having with people in the room, I thought, this is the exact same guy. It's been 14 years and all he can talk about is how much money he has. This is wild to me. So I walked away. And from that, you know, I walked away from that event, and just, it sort of, for me, I was like, this is good, David. You don't need him in your life. You're okay to continue to not talk to him. But now listening to you, I'm thinking maybe I'm not.
You know, this just comes from my personal journey, because I've had, you know, close friends where they don't connect with their family members and things of that sort, and it's actually better for them in the long run, you know. But within my personal experience, man, I was on a similar route where there's things in my dad's personality or his way of being that I didn't resonate or align with. And in reestablishing a connection with him, it came down to, like, I'm not here to change him. I'm just here to love him for who he is, to treat him the way that I wanted to be treated, right? Just to be accepted for who I am, being loved for who I am. I'm going to do the same thing with him. I'm going to lead by example in that way. And not really caring for a particular outcome, just for us to come closer together, and so, whatever that way is, because sometimes we have a vision of what we want it to be, but it doesn't always come to fruition that way. And so in my journey going through that, man, and even still to this day, I say this, that a lot of the woundings or things that can hold us back can come from my childhood experiences or our dynamics with our parents. They play such a role in our development and who we are, to a degree that, I mean, and especially if they've been around or have not been around, that it kind of molds us into who we are to some degree today, along with other life experiences. And so when you're able to be honest with yourself and, like, go in deep and, like, see how has this affected me, how would I've liked this to be differently, it can create a shift within you, within your being. And I think it's a cool, and it's not cool. I say cool because, like, when if a shift does happen, and when it does happen, in my opinion, it's a cool thing to see it all come to fruition, the way that it shifts and the way that it works out. But it's a beautiful opportunity to explore and be curious about, like, how can this continue to help me step forward in my journey or my path, you know. Just because for me in my story, it's been very profound, man. You know, father masculine energy and mother feminine energy, they just play such a major role within our own masculine and feminine energy within ourselves, you know, in the way that we perceive ourselves. So I invite you to be curious, just to see, no expectation, just to see, and try to be curious about, you know, his personality and why he is the way he is in that way, and, you know, still choose to love unconditionally that way, because we've been loved conditionally,
Yeah.
you know.
As you were talking, I almost wondered if I was to sit down with him, if he would, and if I was to say, hey, you know, part of the reason I haven't talked with you is because of your love for money, if he would say some sort of response was, well, nothing I did as a father was ever good enough for you, so I had to prove to you that I was good at something, or something to that effect. Another thing that's sort of funny that I'm chuckling about inside is so many people in Austin have had their experience with plant medicine, and I think I'm getting closer and closer to exploring that myself. And then when you said, you know, that was one of the things that helped you realize that you want to talk with your dad again, my first thought was like, maybe I won't.
Dude, the universe is inviting you, bro. I'm just here, another root or branch, just extending the offering in some way,
Right.
shape, or form. But yeah, dude, I mean, listen, I can say this, man. No one experience is the same. So, like, when you speak to people about these different healing modalities, like, they can give you a perspective, but it's not your perspective or the perspective, you know? And so it's important to go with an open mind and an open heart. And despite the turns that it takes you through in that journey, it's all essentially beautiful. It can be intense, it can be challenging, right? But it's all purposeful, intentional, and beautiful. The way that it all unravels into your life.
Yeah.
You know, I'm such a huge advocate for it. I started my journey with it like in 2017, and so I wouldn't have been able to heal the dynamic with my family and my parents, and with other people around me, just in my own journey, if I didn't have that assist with plant medicine. It just reminds me of how sacred this earth is, and like how much of this experience is just a human experience, just a glimpse in time, you know, and just enjoy the ride, not take life too seriously, even though we might forget. Once I might leave here, I might forget. I'm like, shit, I gotta go do this, right?
Yeah.
But it's just part of the experience, like to bring yourself back, and it's just like, yo, enjoy the ride, enjoy the moment, and work through the things that you need to work through. But like, try to see if you can do it in a childlike way, in a genuine, pure-like way, you know, in an innocence way, through the lens of love, through the lens of unconditional love. And like I said before, man, some of us do have the responsibility to lead by example, to show what that is, because others before us don't know what that is, you know. And so of course we want to feel it, we want to experience it, but there'll probably be other people along the way that can teach us and show us that for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to change the subject a little bit.
Yeah.
Not too much, but a little bit.
Shift
maxing. It's what the kids are saying these days. It's like,
really?
they'll say like a blank maxing, so it'll be like podcast maxing, tattoo maxing,
Oh boy,
grounding maxing.
I am so out of tune now with what the new lingo of the slangs are.
Old.
What?
I said about myself earlier. I'm right there with you.
Hey man, I'll take it. I can't keep up.
Experienced. Let's go with that.
Okay.
And don't feel bad if you. I mean, I don't think the thing that you and me need to flog ourselves over today is not being caught up with the words the teens are using.
Fair enough.
We got other stuff to worry about.
Fair enough.
We got estranged fathers and such, you know.
Maxing. I'm gonna add that to my vocabulary though. Maxing.
Last quote from your page. If I could talk to my younger self, I would express that the path to the greatest experiences in life are filled with pain, suffering, adversity, and many more challenges. Attitude is everything, and in the toughest moments, it will create a knowingness within which you'll realize that hard times too will pass. Therefore, embrace it. When it comes to others' opinions, don't take anything personal. What others say or do is a projection of their own reality, and nothing they do is because of you. Lastly, embrace and be present in the rainy days just as much as the sunny days. Be mindful of this and you'll unlock the greatest experiences and wisdom in life. With love, older self. And the reason I wanted to ask you that today is because 65% of the audience of this podcast is between the ages of 16 and 24 years old. It's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, 65% are in that 8-year range. It's a pretty even split of men and women, almost exactly 50%, with the majority of the audience being in the United States, Northern Africa, and Southern Asia. Now, you and me, and for better or for worse, cannot go back and speak to our younger selves. But I did want to give you an opportunity right now to look in this camera and talk to this group of 16 to 24-year-olds all over the world. And based off everything that we've discussed today, what would you tell them?
This is pretty cool because it's almost as if I get to speak to my younger self all over again. Especially in a world that we live in with access to social media and so much information, man. There is so much that I would want to say. So many different avenues or directions or aspects. What I feel called to share is a perspective that I'm going to invite them to see is that reality is what you make of it and not what is being presented to you, right? It's not what's being served to you. You are a powerful creator of your own reality. I'm getting chills on my body just speaking this. And so with that being said, is like you call into your life the experiences that your spirit, your soul needs. And oftentimes when we go through the challenging experiences, we can deem it as negative. We can deem them as like, why am I going through this? But it's like seeing it from a detached point of view to some extent after you feel through the experience and extracting the lesson from the experience for what it is and use that as fuel to keep taking a step forward, not a sprint forward, a step forward towards the direction of the life that you want to head into. Right? Often these experiences are nudges. As okay, we gotta make a left here now. We gotta make a right, and not getting so caught up in those challenging experiences. And so again, with being a creator of your own reality, you have control over your attention. You have control over your state of mind. You have control over your body. You have control over this vessel right here. This is what you were given with at birth. And so this is your whole right. You can do absolutely anything for it. And so use it in a purposeful way towards creating more unity, more harmony, more love in this world, making this world a better place for yourself and other people around you. Whether that be through a creative way, whether that be through a different form of industry that's serving people, whatever it is that you're going to use it to serve humanity in a way that you believe is going to be better for the people around you. And most important of it all is to have fun with it. Have fun with the process. Listen, I am guilty of like not having fun, taking things way too seriously, taking things way too intensely. But as I look back, it's just like certain things are going to happen anyways. Just stay true to your vision and have fun in the process. It matters, but it also doesn't matter in the end. You know, it's how you enjoy and how you live your life through that journey. So that is my message to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was exactly what they needed to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you also just for being here, for being so genuine and transparent and fun. This was such a fun conversation,
I
man.
agree, bro.
This was a really good time. What a joy and what a thing to be grateful for, that two people that don't know each other can sit down and have these types of conversations and then put them on the internet where absolutely anyone can access them. And dude, I'm just like being flooded with gratitude right now. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, David, for the way you came across my work and my page and inviting me onto your platform, onto your podcast. Like, and not only that, above all, dude, thank you for wanting to deeply listen to me and my story. I think that it's such a beautiful gift that you are here to create an opportunity for people to share their story. And there are many people out there that would love to speak about their journey and the things that they've been through in their life, and don't have the opportunity to do so. And so you're creating and doing a beautiful thing, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you're welcome. Yeah, it's dude, it's it's funny because one day the way I found Bryan was I woke up and thought, let's get a tattoo artist on the show. And so what I do behind the scenes is I'll start Googling tattoo shops in Austin, and then if they have somewhere on their page where they have employees listed, I'll start looking for them on Instagram, because that's how I can reach out to you since I don't have your phone number or your email. And I probably reached out to like 25 or 30 different tattoo artists that morning, and you are the one that responded. And every time I go through this exercise, it's always the right one. And it makes me, this is where the old Christian part of me, and then the modern day David is trying to decide, like, who is God or the higher power or source. Like, that's almost just, get rid of the name for a second, right? Is it completely coincidence that you are the one that showed up today? Or is there something else where maybe I woke up that morning and Source did put in my head tattoo artist because it needed to lead us to you coming on the show so that you could give that message to all those teens and the young adults that you just did? I don't know. And we may never have the answer. I just know I'm going to keep doing my thing and trusting my gut and listening to my intuition, because so far it's led us to 80 really fabulous podcasts.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome. Dude, and I have to say, too, the way the universe works is so interesting and intricate at the same time. When you reached out, I was just getting out of a plant ceremony experience, and one of my insights from that experience is like, I need to begin to share my story. Just because like I've been very quiet in my own personal journey and the things that I've been experiencing. Like, for example, the stuff that you pulled up, this was from years ago, right? Mm-hmm. I've dialed down in terms of sharing about my personal life, just because it's been such a introspective year for me, right? With a lot of different experiences and whatnot. And so when I came out the ceremony, it's like you get a recalibration of like being right back into alignment, into like the flow of life and your flow of the way things are supposed to be going. And then I see your message, and I was like, all right, I need to begin to speak. All right, this is it. You're sending it my way. All right, let's make it happen. Let's do it. Let's begin to share my story, and just to speak, right, and to share experiences, right. People can feed off of people when they see just another human being. Like, one things that I preach about to people that I have that can come across me on the platform is like, I'm not just a tattoo artist. I'm just another human being, right? Like, I don't even like being labeled a tattoo artist or an artist. I'm just a human being having a human experience, and I have all these different experiences that if I can share with people and I can maybe serve as some guidance, it can help them like avoid certain paths that they may not need to be necessary to go through, and can be avoided, you know?
Yeah.
Even though some things are all necessary for the experience overall, you know, some things can certainly be avoided, you know, but you still have to go through that fire in your own story, in your own way. So again, dude, I'm just grateful for you, the universe, for allowing me to speak, and this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right, I got couple final things for you as we wrap this up. Is there anything that you wanted to cover? Actually, before we do that, shout out, where do you work? Where can people find you? How can people, if they're in Austin and they wanted to talk with you about getting a new tattoo, how can they reach out to you?
Great question. So, you guys can find me on my personal business Instagram. It's at Indigo Blue, INDGO BLEU, and the name of my shop is Alchemy Arts ATX. And I have a private studio in North Austin. So the address is disclosed upon booking, because it is a private studio. But yeah, that's how you can find me on Instagram. You'll be able to see a lot of my work and a lot of things that I speak about, and just my daily routine, my daily life on Instagram. And I do travel from state to state. So I do go to Jersey. I've been to Florida. I go to Arizona. I've been to Cali. So I do fly from time to time and tattoo clients out there as well, too.
Okay, awesome. And I'll put all of that in the show notes as well, you guys. So if you missed the spelling of his Instagram handle or the shop, just scroll down a little bit and you'll see it listed down there. Is there anything that you wanted to touch on today that we forgot to cover?
I don't think anything has been forgotten. I think that everything we spoke about is what we needed to be spoken about today, and then I'm just grateful for the way that it flowed.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Before I ask you your final question, to you, the audience, I have a favor to ask of you guys. You know, I mentioned those statistics about who we're reaching right now. I had no idea that was going to be the target audience. That was something that held me up in the beginning of my podcasting journey, was I thought, who do I want to talk to? And now that I know that it's 65% people between the ages of 16 to 24, and now we have individuals like Bryan who are willing to come on the show. I truly, genuinely believe that his message can have an impact on those teens' lives. So the request I'm going to make of you is, so that we can reach more of those young adults, go to Spotify right now and leave the podcast a 5-star review. Go to Apple Podcasts, where you can also leave a 5-star review, and you can leave a written review. So if you wanted to write a note to me, if you wanted to talk about the podcast, if you wanted to relay some message to Bryan, whatever you want to put in there, please leave a written review. And then lastly, go subscribe to the YouTube channel so that we can continue to grow this thing. And if you guys do that for me, I promise you that I will tirelessly continue to work on building this thing as big as I can. With that being said, my final question for you is, what was like the craziest or funniest tattoo request you got, where the guy was, or not even the guy, the client was just like, I want a giant dick on my arm, or I want a, like the one where you were like, oh dude, like they want this on them permanently forever? Has that request come in yet?
Yes, gratefully earlier in my career, because I had to tattoo anything and everything for the most part that came in through the door. Luckily, I'm not in that space now, because then you begin to tailor your clientele to be a certain specific style or way of tattooing, right? But one of the things, I mean, it is what it is, but it was so simple, but I had to tattoo this guy's butt cheek and just put a set of cherries on his butt cheek. And so it was just a process of like, all right, I'm really doing this for the sake of tattooing. I'm grateful for the support. Let me shave that ass real quick. take some of the hair off, and then just sit there, man, and just spread that one cheek, just trying to create some perfect cherries. Yeah, it was an interesting experience, man. That's probably the most weird or outlandish of sorts to create. But other than that, man, it's been pretty. I've been pretty good with just attracting the clientele that I really want to work with and to create that work that I really want to create ultimately.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you've been able to do that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, man, let's get you out of here so you can continue on with your day. To the audience, thank you so much for joining us. I love you guys, and I'm grateful for you. Stay healthy, stay happy, and we'll see you next Saturday night. Bye, everyone.
Peace.